So, but let's get back to this. Is
Yeah. How do you want to
you?
position this? I came to you
Yeah,
and
I
I
mean,
wanted to I wanted to get this out.
sure. I want you to tell a little more detail. So you're claiming that you were sent in by some group to help pull people out of the UFO cult extremist groups. You talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to go into detail. All I will say is that I was brought in to identify the people involved in the group, involved in what I understood as the ideology of a cult. People who wanted to almost find vulnerable victims, almost like sacrificial lambs, take them to the people that they wanted to get close to win favor, build entire narratives. There were a lot of people involved in it. It's important to note, as I said at the beginning, there were more than 150 of us recruited. I'm just one of them. A lot of those people are still embedded in Twitter. I left in October last year. A lot of the people I used to work with are still embedded. They are still part of your community. They are still close to some of the cult members and the activists and a lot of people. I'm not going to mention who they are because that's called integrity and they're still doing their job. It's important to know that they're not here for a psyop. They are here to protect people and to help people from this shit that you are seeing, because it is real, it is dangerous, and it is sick, and it exists every single day and still does on your community that most of you simply turn a blind eye to. And it is not just the activists and the believers and the experiencers that are part of this. There are many people pretending to be skeptics who are pushing the same narratives and the same cults, multiple cults. It is dangerous and you need to all be aware of it. Scouts were already on the social media. They were engaging with various people. Their purpose was to identify the profiles that we were given and to then introduce them to us outside of Twitter for us to be able to have communications and discussions with them, earn their trust, and then slowly but surely start to gather the intelligence that we needed. Towards the latter part of March 2020, I and several others was approached by an organization who wanted my assistance with what for them was a matter of concern. This organization is not, like some will wish to refer to them, a shadowy, secretive organization. In fact, they're quite a well-known entity who happen to have their own interests in this topic for whatever reasons they be. I simply am not going to divulge who they are because it's irrelevant to the core subject here. I was invited to a building in central London where we all sat down and were presented with our brief. We were informed and shown that there were groups of people from the UK and Ireland, but also the United States and Canada, who were targeting vulnerable people or groups of people across a number of social media platforms using various means. Some were recruiting or manipulating people on behalf of a select number of higher profile individuals within this field. Some believed they were here for some kind of holy mission, a cause they were chosen to be a leader in, and self-appointed themselves. Others were using vulnerable people to win favor with those higher up in the hope they could themselves be invited into some inner circle. Then there were those individuals trained or with specific experience in finding and obtaining information, not just about this topic, but more significantly about individuals on social media platforms or anywhere they needed, which they would target for the purpose of blackmailing, threatening, and intimidating. Some demonstrated skills one would expect from people with a background in some form of cyber intelligence and electronic warfare. These individuals would then train others on how to undertake such research on individuals, and they worked together to manipulate and intimidate vulnerable people for a variety of agendas, a kind of low-level psychological operation. Many of these people had some level of strong extremist ideologies or beliefs, and a central narrative and agenda they worked towards. Anybody is a potential target for them, especially those who were vocal against the ideologies and narrative, or refused to comply walked away. Targets would be harassed depending on their perceived level of threat to the cause.
Some were to be taken down by any means necessary, and the more significant a target's social status, the more people in this group would work together to go after them. Many were simply intimidated through online harassment and abuse, while others were outed or doxxed, or had significant personal information about them disseminated online for public humiliation and discrediting.
I'm for Israeli intelligence. I'm not currently, and I wasn't in the capacity that I was in. I can't.
Okay, but you told me it's some kind of quasi-intelligence organization.
Well,
That's from Israel, right?
No, it's an organization. The people involved are from several countries. I was brought in because of certain training and skills that I had in specific fields. So I'm going to stay on here, but I'm going to email you something so that you can see for yourself. And you could see that it's a paper researching post-traumatic effects of terrorism on children.
Okay.
And if you scroll down to the first main page of the PDF, you will see the co-authors.
Yeah, I see listed from Rishon LeZion Mental Health Center in Israel.
That's right.
You have a background in psychology.
I've got a background in psychology, but one of my main focus areas has always been how ideologies, terrorists, groups, cults influence and affect people, which is why I was brought in to be able to identify people, or actually the scouts that were on would identify them. I was able to get embedded to identify what they were doing, identify the behavior, to be able to identify vulnerable victims and get them out. Everything that I did, I didn't give a shit about the people I was interacting with daily. I wasn't there for them. What the scripts were saying, what the stories were, I never cared. There was a lot of truth because there was things that I was saying that were in terms of scientific research. I used to put papers on. I used to talk about different things as well at the time. But most of the things were simply scripted. And it was those groups of very, very heavy believers that I was there to get inside with. Everyone else was irrelevant. I wasn't there to be a skeptic.
Or you were posting scripted things. Who was giving you the script? The group that you are saying that you worked for?
Initially, yes, and we were making up the script as we went along. We would literally meet certain individuals, certain accounts who were telling us certain stories, and we would build narratives on what we were learning, people believed in, people were saying. We weren't mimicking them. We weren't taking their stories from them. We were simply pushing things out that there were groups, large groups, that believed in it. Simply to fit in. I think the best way to describe it is almost like an undercover operative in a mafia group. He has to pretend to be someone, speaking like them, doing exactly what they do, living in a rundown apartment in the same area. None of them would know who he is. They would all think that he's one of them. That's exactly the purpose. The purpose was simply to find, identify, and get people out away from the hold of those groups. That's it.
Yeah, and just to be clear for the audience, I have asked you, for more details of this organization that you claim that you were sent in by. I don't know, what, 3, 4, 5 times now, and
the reason I'm not giving
you can imagine where people would find that problematic. Like there's some secret shadowy group that's sending people in to save people from UFO cults, but
there is
secret. I can't tell you who they are.
It's not about a secret. It's about there are still people on Twitter doing that. I'm not denying it. And if people think that there aren't, if people honestly are naive enough to think that there are no people on Twitter specifically to monitor and to look on both sides of it. It's not just to push a narrative and to push propaganda of the UFO narrative, it's also to counter it. But I wasn't there to counter it. I was there to help the people that were being affected by it. And that's it. And if people believe it, this story isn't about me. I know people like to make things about individuals, but this isn't about me. This is about a group of people that I was watching, and you have all the evidence in front of you to show you what you need. If people want to make this about me, that's up to them. It really doesn't bother me. I'm not running away. I could have run away after that blog. I'm not running away because I've got nothing to care about. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. If people don't want to listen, I have no interest in remaining on Twitter. I didn't have any interest in coming on Twitter. I was asked to. I did my job, and I left. I then had someone pretending to be the real me when they weren't. And I take me down. You can take me down. It really doesn't bother me. It doesn't change what you have in front of you. Whether I worked for a shadowy organization, as you call it, or I worked for myself, I'm just a guy who caught wind of people manipulating vulnerable people and doing really, really shitty things to them that were very dangerous, that led people to some serious anxieties and serious paranoia to the verge of schizophrenia, that led someone, because it's all involved with the same group, to murder his own father. Does it matter if I was part of a group or working on my own? What will make everyone feel more comfortable?
No, I understand your side of it.
I never came to Twitter to make friends. I came here to do a job. I don't give a shit about most people on Twitter. I don't care what I said to them. They were never important. What is important is to identify the predators, identify their victims, and get their victims as far the fuck away from those predators and these cult members. I don't apologize for anything I did, and I would do it again in a heartbeat, because none of you realize how many actual lives were saved by what me and my group did. And we're not the only group that are on Twitter and social media. There are dozens of different groups doing this. The fact that none of you understand how the real world works, that's not for me to explain to you. But people need to wake up, because many of you are responsible for this. You claim you're not here for the drama, but you love the drama. You're like the audience at a Roman Colosseum watching gladiators kill each other, and you're just cheering for the blood. You want a clean community that works together. You need to make that happen. Me, as in Moran Lerner, I don't give a shit about disclosure. I don't care if disclosure happens, if it doesn't happen, if it's real. I don't care about any of it. All I cared about was the people I came to help and the people I came to stop. That's it. And for all these activists that have been throwing abuse and vitriol and threats to me and my family, you should turn your anger to these people. I'm not the one standing in the way of your disclosure movement and your stupid cause and your Louis Elizondos. I couldn't care less about any of you or your fucking cause. You should be turning your anger to these people. They're the ones harming your cause. If any one of you had an ounce of integrity or decency or ethics, you would turn your anger at them, and rightly so.